Imagine losing something so precious, only to have it come back. Not with love, but with rage. With darkness that never lets go. What if the one you chose never forgave you? Some choices are never forgotten. Some ghosts never let go. Welcome to Short Stories with AI. Subscribe now and step into a world of limitless imagination. If you don't, the next story might just come knocking at your door. This is The Ghost of the Unborn Twin. James and Olivia Miller, a young couple from Boston, USA, had always been the perfect love story. They met during college, fell madly in love, and after 5 years of dating, tied the knot. They had everything they ever wanted, a charming house in a peaceful neighborhood, a strong bond that most couples would envy, and soon, the joyful news that Olivia was pregnant with twin girls. Their excitement knew no bounds. They spent hours dreaming about raising 2 daughters together, imagining the giggles that would echo through the halls and the memories they would make as a family. Life seemed perfect, almost too perfect. But as time went on, their dreams would soon turn into a living nightmare. During Olivia's pregnancy, complications arose. An overwhelming decision was thrust upon them. Only one of the twins could be saved. The doctors told them the heart-wrenching truth. Their dreams shattered in an instant. They were left with no choice. In a state of despair, they chose to save the stronger twin. Grace, the other twin whom they never got to name, was lost. The grief was unbearable, but they buried it deep, convincing themselves that with Grace in their arms, they could still have a future filled with happiness. But some choices never really stay buried, and some souls never truly rest. As time passed, James and Olivia found solace in Grace, their surviving daughter. She was their joy, their everything, and with her, they slowly started to heal from their unimaginable loss. Grace grew into a bright, energetic child. But as she turned 4 years old, something strange started happening. At first, it was innocent. Grace spoke about an imaginary friend she called Rose. Olivia found it amusing, as many children create make-believe companions. But there was something about the name, Rose. The name seemed to linger in Olivia's mind, unsettling her in ways she couldn't explain. James brushed it off as childish behavior, but soon, things escalated. Grace would be caught talking to Rose for hours, whispering, laughing, as if someone was truly there. Olivia began noticing odd things around the house, lights flickering, doors creaking, a faint cold breeze sweeping through the hallways. But what scared her the most was the way Grace would sometimes talk in her sleep, calling for Rose, as though this imaginary friend had become real. A thought grew stronger in Olivia's mind. What if Rose wasn't imaginary at all? The unsettling events grew darker. Grace started waking up with bruises on her arms and legs, claiming it was Rose who had been playing too rough with her. Olivia's fear escalated. Every night, the once warm and loving home seemed to grow colder. They tried to rationalize it, but deep down, Olivia knew something was horribly wrong. Late one evening, while Olivia was putting Grace to bed, Grace suddenly looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes and said, "Mommy, Rose says she misses you too." Chills ran down Olivia's spine. It hit her. Rose wasn't just an imaginary friend. Rose was the spirit of the twin they had lost, the one they had chosen to let go. She was back, and she wasn't happy. The paranormal activity became relentless. Objects would move on their own, eerie whispers filled the rooms, and at night Olivia and James would hear Grace having full conversations with someone they couldn't see. Grace began to act differently, distant, sometimes angry. Olivia's heart broke as she realized her little girl was being consumed by her lost twin. Olivia and James thought, how could they stop a ghost, especially one born from their own choice? Desperate for help, James and Olivia turned to a psychic medium, hoping for answers. The medium, an older woman with piercing eyes, revealed that the spirit of Rose was trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead. Rose had never truly crossed over. Her spirit was filled with rage, hurt by the fact that she had been abandoned. Her jealousy of Grace was growing by the day. The medium warned them that if they didn't act soon, Rose would take Grace with her into the afterlife. The solution was both simple and terrifying. A spiritual ritual to guide Rose's soul to the afterlife. But it wouldn't be easy. Rose had grown stronger, fueled by the emotional trauma of being left behind. The ritual would require Grace's presence, and it would force the family to confront their deepest fears. As the family prepared for the ritual, the tension in the air was suffocating. Objects were being thrown around the house, lights flickered violently, and Grace's demeanor had changed entirely. She was no longer the sweet child they knew. She would stare blankly into the distance, her voice soft but chilling. Rose says she's almost here. Could they save Grace in time, or would Rose pull her into the darkness forever? The night of the ritual arrived. The medium placed Grace in the center of the room, surrounded by candles and symbols drawn with salt. Olivia and James stood by, terrified but determined to save their daughter. As the ritual began, the temperature in the room plummeted, and the house groaned as if the walls themselves were alive. Grace's eyes turned cold, and she whispered in a voice not her own, "I just want to take her with me." Suddenly, the room exploded into chaos. Furniture was hurled across the room, candles flickered out, and the presence of Rose grew stronger, manifesting in violent tremors. James was thrown to the floor. Olivia cried out in fear, but the medium stood firm, chanting in a language they couldn't understand. Grace, now fully under Rose's control, began to rise from the floor. Olivia screamed for her, begging for Rose to let her daughter go. In one final desperate attempt, the medium shouted the final words of the ritual, and everything stopped. Silence. Grace fell to the ground, unconscious but alive. The air in the house grew warm again, the candles relit themselves, and the dark presence was gone. Rose had finally crossed over. As they stood in the aftermath, shaken and exhausted, James and Olivia made a small grave for Rose in their backyard, honoring the daughter they never truly knew. Peace had returned to their home, or so they thought. Years later, Olivia walks past Grace's room, now 10 years old. She hears soft whispers. Peeking inside, she sees Grace brushing her hair in the mirror, talking to someone. Olivia asks, "Who are you talking to, sweetheart?" Grace pauses, smiles, and replies, "Oh, no one, Mommy. Just Rose." Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and stay tuned for more haunting tales, or you might miss the next ghostly visit.